poor seamstress married a ruined mountain man. Not knowing he was heir to a hidden fortune, the colony planet of Red Hollow was a hard place to live. Cold winds moved across wide valleys, and tall mountains stood like silent giants watching over the small settlements below. Most people who came to Red Hollow were dreamers or survivors. Some came searching for wealth. Others came because they had nowhere else to go. Lyra belonged to the second group. She was a poor seamstress who lived in a tiny room above an old repair shop. Every day she worked with needle and thread, fixing torn jackets, patching mining suits, and repairing old blankets. Her hands were always busy, but her pockets were rarely full. People liked her because she was kind and honest, but kindness did not always bring money. Still, she never complained. Each morning she walked through the dusty streets carrying her small sewing kit. Robots moved slowly between buildings, delivering supplies. Rusted starship parts were stacked beside old wooden wagons. Red Hollow was a strange mix of old Western life and forgotten space technology. One evening, while she worked near the town square, she noticed a tall figure standing alone beside the water station. He wore a long coat that looked worn from years of travel. His beard was rough and his eyes stayed low, avoiding others. "That's the mountain man," whispered a shopkeeper nearby. "Came down from the highlands again." Lyra glanced at him with quiet curiosity. People in Red Hollow often spoke about the mountain man. Some said he lived in an old cabin far above the settlement. Others claimed he talked to machines more than people. No one seemed to know his true story, but many avoided him. His name was Kale. He moved like someone carrying heavy memories. When he paid for supplies, he spoke only a few words before leaving quickly. Some settlers laughed behind his back, others simply ignored him. Lyra felt something different. She did not see a dangerous man, she saw someone tired. Days later, the town elders called for a gathering. Life on Red Hollow was difficult, and the elders often created practical solutions to help people survive. This time, they announced a partnership program, encouraging lonely settlers to form households so they could support each other. Marriage was not always about romance here. Sometimes it was about survival. Lyra listened quietly as names were called. When she heard her own name paired with Kale's, a soft wave of whispers moved through the crowd. "She's gentle, he's strange," someone murmured. "That won't last," another said. Lyra felt her heart beat faster, but she stayed calm. She had faced worse challenges before. When she looked toward Kale, he seemed surprised but not angry. He gave a small nod, accepting the arrangement without argument. The ceremony was simple. No music, no decorations, only the wind moving through metal buildings and a few witnesses standing nearby. Kale spoke little, but when he placed the ring on her finger, his hands were steady. Afterward, he guided her toward a rugged transport vehicle waiting at the edge of town. "The cabin is far," he said quietly. "The road is rough." "I'm used to rough," Lyra replied gently. The journey into the mountains took hours. The land grew wilder as they climbed higher. Strange metal structures appeared half buried in rock, old remnants from a forgotten war. Some glowed faintly at night, casting soft blue light across the snow. Lyra watched everything with curiosity. Kale drove in silence, focused on the narrow path. At last, they reached the cabin. It was larger than she expected, built from old wood reinforced with metal panels. A small garden struggled to survive beside it, protected by a low fence. Lights turned on automatically as they approached. Inside, the cabin felt both old and advanced. Wooden tables stood beside sleek machines. A cooking stove sat next to a digital console filled with blinking lights. "You can use any room," Kale said. "I sleep early." He moved toward a back area without another word. Lyra stood alone for a moment, unsure what to say. The place felt lonely, but also full of hidden stories. Over the next few days, she worked quietly to make the cabin feel like a home. She cleaned dust from shelves, repaired torn curtains, and arranged simple decorations from pieces she brought from town. Kale watched silently but never complained. Slowly, small routines formed between them. He left early each morning, climbing into the mountains with tools she did not recognize. She cooked meals and waited for him to return before eating. Sometimes he spoke a little more, asking about her sewing or telling short stories about storms in the mountains. One evening, she noticed a strange panel hidden behind a curtain. When she touched it, lights flickered on, revealing advanced systems far beyond anything owned by poor settlers. She stepped back quickly. Why would a ruined mountain man own such technology? Later that night, as they sat across from each other at the table, she gathered courage. "You lived differently before?" she asked gently. Cale paused. His eyes stayed on his plate. "Long ago," he said finally. "Not important now." She nodded, respecting his silence. Days passed, and the air between them grew less awkward. Cale began leaving extra firewood near her chair. Lyra repaired his torn coat without being asked. Small acts of care replaced words. One night, a loud humming sound filled the sky. Lyra rushed outside and saw a glowing drone flying overhead. Its lights scanned the mountains before suddenly turning toward the cabin. Cale stepped outside quickly, his expression sharp and alert. The drone hovered for a moment, then flew away into the darkness. Cale's shoulders tightened. "We may have visitors soon," he said quietly. "Friends?" Lyra asked. He hesitated. "I don't know." Later, while preparing tea, Lyra noticed him checking hidden compartments along the walls. Inside were tools, weapons, and strange devices that looked expensive and rare. Her thoughts raced, but she stayed calm. This man was not who people believed he was. When she finally lay down to sleep, she stared at the ceiling, listening to the wind against the cabin walls. Her life had changed quickly, from a poor seamstress alone in town to the wife of a mysterious mountain man surrounded by secrets. She did not feel afraid, only curious. Outside, far above the mountains, another drone watched silently before sending a signal into deep space. And somewhere beyond the stars, someone received the message. Cale had been found. Morning came slowly to the mountain cabin. Pale sunlight slipped through the windows and touched the wooden floor. Outside, cold wind moved across the rocks, carrying distant echoes from the valley below. Lyra woke early, as she always did. She prepared tea and warmed bread over the small stove. The cabin felt quieter than before, but something had changed since the drone appeared the previous night. Even the air felt heavier. Cale sat at the table, checking a small device in his hand. Its surface glowed softly with moving symbols. He noticed Lyra watching but did not hide it. "They scanned us," he said finally. "Who?" she asked gently. He did not answer immediately. Instead, he stood and walked toward the window, watching the mountains as if expecting something to appear. "People from my past," he said at last. "Maybe." Lyra did not push further. She had learned that Cale spoke more when he was ready, not when forced. After breakfast, he prepared to leave for the mountains, but this time he hesitated. "You should stay near the cabin," he said. "If you see anything strange, call me with this." He handed her a small communicator. It felt heavier than it looked, built with strong metal edges. Lyra nodded. "Be careful." He gave a small, almost surprised smile before stepping outside. Alone in the cabin, Lyra continued her work. She repaired torn gloves, cleaned shelves, and slowly explored areas she had not yet touched. The more she looked around, the more she realized the cabin was not simple at all. Hidden panels covered the walls. Some machines looked old but powerful, like they belonged to another life. While cleaning near a bookshelf, she noticed a faint line on the floor. Curious, she pressed against the wall. A soft click sounded, and part of the rock wall shifted open. Behind it was a narrow passage leading downward. Lyra hesitated. Cale had warned her about certain areas, but curiosity pulled her forward. Carefully, she stepped inside. Lights turned on automatically as she descended. The passage opened into a wide underground chamber. She stopped, breath caught in her chest. The room was filled with advanced technology. Large machines stood in neat rows, covered in dust but still active. Screens displayed moving data. Metal containers lined the walls, marked with symbols she did not understand. At the center of the room stood a tall structure shaped like a control tower. This was not the home of a ruined mountain man. This was something far greater. Lyra moved slowly, touching nothing. She felt like she had entered someone's secret heart. Suddenly, footsteps echoed behind her. She turned quickly. Cale stood at the entrance, his expression tense. "I told you there are places you should not go," he said, though his voice held more worry than anger. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I was cleaning. I didn't mean to break trust." He sighed and rubbed his forehead. "It's not about trust," he said softly. "It's about danger." For a moment they stood in silence. Then Cale walked toward one of the machines, his hand brushing over its surface. "This belonged to my family," he said slowly. "Long ago." Lyra listened carefully. "They were explorers," he continued. "Builders, they hid things here to protect them. After everything fell apart, I stayed to guard what remained." "You are not ruined," she said gently. He looked at her surprised. "That's what people in town believe," she added. but I see someone carrying responsibility. Her words stayed in the air between them. For the first time, Kale's guarded expression softened completely. Before he could respond, a loud alert sounded through the chamber. Red lights flashed along the walls. Kale moved quickly to a screen. "Movement near the valley," he said. "3 vehicles." "Visitors?" Lyra asked. "Hunting party," he replied. They returned to the surface together. From the edge of the mountain, they watched small shapes moving along the distant road. Dust rose behind them. Kale's jaw tightened. "They found me faster than I expected. Will they come here?" "Yes." Lyra felt fear, but also determination. "What should we do?" Kale looked at her carefully, as if deciding something important. "Stay close to me," he said, "and listen carefully to everything I say." The rest of the day passed in preparation. Kale checked hidden systems around the cabin, activating sensors and security fields. Lyra helped where she could, handing him tools and watching closely. As the sun began to set, they heard distant engines approaching. 3 strangers arrived near the lower path. Their vehicles were sleek and expensive, not like the worn transports used by settlers. One of them stepped forward and called out. "We are traders," he said loudly, "looking for a man named Kale." Kale remained silent, watching from behind a ridge. Lyra noticed the stranger's eyes scanning the mountain too carefully. "They are lying," she whispered. "Yes," Kale said quietly. The strangers left after a short time, but their presence changed everything. That night, Kale began teaching Lyra basic survival skills. How to move quietly, how to watch shadows, how to recognize danger from small signs. "You don't need to fight," he told her. "You need to think." She learned quickly, surprising him. Days passed with growing tension. More drones appeared in the sky. Signals moved across Kale's devices. The hunters were searching more aggressively now. One evening, while repairing a damaged sensor, Lyra realized something. "They are not just looking for you," she said slowly. "They are looking for something you protect." Kale nodded. "Yes." "Something valuable?" "Very." He looked toward the mountain behind them. "And if they find it, many people will suffer." Lyra felt her resolve strengthen. "Then we protect it together." Kale watched her for a long moment. No fear showed in her eyes, only quiet courage. For the first time since the drone appeared, he allowed himself to believe he was no longer alone. Far below, hidden among rocks, one of the hunters activated a beacon. A signal shot into space, calling for reinforcements. The search was no longer secret. And soon the mountain would face a storm. The mountains felt different now. The quiet peace that once surrounded the cabin had been replaced by tension. Sensors placed around the rocky slopes blinked softly in the dark, watching for movement. Every sound seemed louder. Every shadow felt alive. Lyra stood outside the cabin at sunrise, holding a warm cup of tea. She watched clouds roll slowly across the peaks while thinking about how much her life had changed in such a short time. Not long ago, she had been a poor seamstress in a crowded town. Now she lived on a mountain filled with secrets, standing beside a man whose past seemed larger than the world itself. Behind her, Kale adjusted a control panel attached to the cabin wall. Lines of light moved across the screen as he checked incoming signals. "They are closer," he said quietly. "How many?" Lyra asked. "More than before," she nodded slowly. Fear touched her heart, but she refused to let it grow. Over the past days, Kale had begun trusting her more. He explained small pieces of his past, though never everything at once. Lyra sensed that he carried memories like heavy stones, carefully choosing which ones to show. That morning, he finally spoke more openly. "We cannot hide anymore," he said. They walked together toward the hidden entrance leading underground. The rock opened silently as they approached. Lights turned on, guiding them down into the chamber beneath the mountain. Lyra still felt amazed every time she entered. Machines hummed softly, alive despite years of silence. Screens showed maps of the planet, star charts, and energy readings she barely understood. Kale stopped at the central console. "This is what they want," he said. He touched the screen, and a projection appeared in the air, a glowing structure shaped like a massive core. "This mountain hides an energy vault," he continued. "Created by my family generations ago, not just money but technology, power strong enough to transform entire worlds." Lyra stared at the image. "Why hide it?" she asked. "Because power attracts the wrong people," he replied. He explained how his family had once been explorers and builders. They discovered a rare energy source capable of stabilizing harsh planets, creating safe environments for settlers. but corporations and rival groups tried to claim it for profit and control. A great conflict followed. In the chaos, Kale lost nearly everything. He escaped here, believing the safest way to protect the vault was to disappear and become no one. "That is why people think I am ruined," he said quietly. "It keeps them away." Lyra stepped closer. "You were protecting others," she said. "That is not being ruined." He looked at her and something unspoken passed between them, a growing trust stronger than words. Suddenly, an alarm echoed through the chamber. Kale moved quickly to the controls. "They are entering the valley," he said. "Multiple vehicles, drones too." They returned to the surface. From the ridge, they saw dark shapes moving along the mountain road. Unlike before, these vehicles carried heavy equipment and advanced scanning tools. "They know exactly where to look," Lyra whispered. Kale's expression hardened. "They must have received confirmation." He activated hidden defenses around the mountain. Small turrets rose from rock formations. Energy shields flickered faintly across key entrances. The peaceful mountain revealed itself as a fortress built for protection. Despite the danger, Kale did not appear excited or proud, only tired. "I hoped never to use these again," he said. Lyra placed a hand gently on his arm. "You are not alone now." Her words gave him strength he had forgotten he needed. The first attack came quickly. Drones flew toward the cabin, scanning and sending signals. Defensive systems activated automatically, disabling some while others retreated. The noise echoed across the mountains like thunder. Lyra moved with focus, helping Kale monitor systems. When one sensor stopped working, she carefully opened the panel and repaired loose wires using tools he had shown her earlier. "You learn fast," he said, surprised. "I repair delicate fabric," she replied with a small smile. "Machines are not so different." Hours passed as tension grew. The hunters attempted to approach from different directions but were pushed back by hidden defenses. Still, they did not leave. "They are waiting," Kale said, "for someone important." As if answering his words, a large ship appeared in the sky just before sunset. Its metal surface reflected red light from the setting sun. It landed slowly at the base of the mountain. From it stepped a group wearing formal uniforms. "They are not just hunters," Kale said quietly. "They represent a corporation." "What will they do?" Lyra asked. "Offer deals or take what they want?" Soon a signal arrived through the cabin's communicator. A calm voice spoke. "Kale Arden, you cannot hide forever. The inheritance belongs to rightful owners. Come speak with us peacefully." Lyra looked at him. "They know your real name?" "Yes." He closed his eyes briefly as if accepting something inevitable. "They will try to convince me," he said. "Promise power, status, restoration of my old life." "And what do you want?" she asked softly. Kale hesitated. "I want peace," he admitted. They walked together outside, watching the distant lights of the corporate camp below. Lyra felt nervous, but she also felt strong. She had seen who Kale truly was, not a broken man, but someone carrying responsibility and kindness. "You should decide not from fear," she said gently, "but from who you are now." Her words stayed with him. That night they prepared for the next step. Kale opened parts of the underground system he had never shown anyone. He explained how the energy vault could help the entire colony, stabilizing storms, improving soil, and creating a better future for settlers. "It was always meant to help people," he said. "Then maybe that is its destiny," Lyra replied. Outside, the corporate representatives waited patiently, confident that time was on their side. Inside the mountain, Kale and Lyra stood together before the glowing core of hidden power. The truth had finally been revealed. And now, the choice that would decide their future was coming. Night covered the mountain like a dark blanket. The stars above Red Hollow shone quietly, but the peaceful sky did not match the tension below. At the base of the mountain, the corporate camp glowed with bright artificial lights. Large vehicles rested in careful lines, and security drones moved slowly in the air like silent watchers. Inside the cabin, Lyra stood near the window, watching the distant lights. "They are patient," she said softly. Kale nodded. "They believe I will come to them." "And will you?" He did not answer right away. Instead, he walked toward the underground entrance and opened the hidden passage. Together, they descended into the mountain, where the energy vault glowed with a steady golden light. The soft hum of power filled the chamber. For years, Kale had avoided this place. It carried memories of loss, responsibility, and fear. But now he stood there with Lyra beside him, and the burden felt lighter. "This power could change everything," he said quietly. It can make the planet safer, help the settlers survive storms, give them a future. Then why hide it? She asked gently. Because others will use it for control, he replied. That corporation will not help people. They will sell access, create dependence, and take more than they give. Lyra listened carefully. She understood that this decision was not only about wealth, it was about trust. What do you truly want? She asked again. Cale looked at the glowing core. For a long moment he said nothing, then he spoke slowly. I want this planet to grow without fear. I want people like you, kind people, to live without struggling every day. Her eyes softened. Then you already know your answer, she said. Above them an alert sounded. Cale checked the screen. They are sending a messenger. They returned to the surface. A single transport vehicle approached slowly, stopping at a safe distance. A tall woman stepped out, wearing a clean uniform and a calm expression. I come peacefully, she called. We only wish to talk. Cale walked forward while Lyra stayed beside him. The woman introduced herself as Director Vale, a representative of a powerful interstellar corporation. You are the last heir, she said. The vault belongs to your family. With our support, you could restore your status, rebuild your legacy, and become powerful again. Cale remained silent. We offer partnership, she continued. Protection, wealth, recognition. Lyra watched him carefully. She knew these words touched old wounds. And what happens to the settlers? Cale asked. They will benefit, Vale replied smoothly. Under controlled management. Her answer sounded careful but cold. Cale shook his head slightly. You see opportunity, he said. I see people who will lose their freedom. Vale's smile faded. You cannot defend this alone forever, she warned. We will claim it legally if necessary. After she left, the mountain felt even quieter. They will not give up, Lyra said. No, Cale agreed. He spent the next hours preparing. Instead of activating weapons, he accessed communication networks hidden within the vault. Lyra watched as he connected old systems to modern signals, sending encrypted messages across space. What are you doing? She asked. Showing the truth, he said. He gathered evidence of the corporation's illegal actions, secret agreements, unfair contracts, and records of exploitation from other colonies. Then he transmitted everything to the Galactic Authority, an organization responsible for maintaining fairness between worlds. If they want legal battle, he said quietly, then we fight with truth. The next day arrived with heavy clouds. Corporate vehicles began moving closer to the mountain. Drones scanned the area more aggressively. Tension rose like a coming storm. Lyra helped prepare the cabin, securing supplies and checking systems. She felt nervous but strong. She was no longer the lonely seamstress from town. She had become part of something bigger. As the corporate team advanced, Cale activated the mountain's defenses, not to attack but to block access. Energy barriers shimmered faintly, preventing vehicles from moving forward. Director Vale sent another message demanding surrender. Cale refused calmly. Hours later, a new signal arrived. Large ships appeared in the sky, not corporate vessels, but official Galactic Authority cruisers. Lyra felt relief wash over her. They came, she said. The Authority ships landed between the corporation and the mountain. Officials stepped out, carrying orders to investigate the claims Cale had sent. After reviewing the evidence, they declared the corporation's actions illegal. Director Vale argued, but the decision was final. Her team was ordered to leave the planet. As their ships lifted into the sky and disappeared, silence returned to the mountains. Cale released a slow breath, as if letting go of years of weight. It is over, he said, but the real decision remained. What would he do with the hidden fortune? Days later, Cale called a meeting in Red Hollow. Settlers gathered in the town square, curious and nervous. Many had once laughed at him, believing he was a broken man. Now they listened as he revealed the truth. He explained the energy vault and how it could help the entire colony. Instead of keeping control, he offered to share it with the community under fair leadership. We build together, he said. No one owns the future alone. The settlers cheered, surprised and grateful. Slowly, the planet began to change. Fields grew greener as environmental stabilizers activated. Storms became less violent. New buildings appeared and hope replaced fear. Lyra continued sewing, but now people visited her not out of pity but respect. She helped design protective clothing using new materials from the vault, blending her skills with advanced technology. One evening, she stood beside Cale outside the cabin. The mountains glowed softly under the sunset, and lights from new settlements flickered in the distance. You could have chosen wealth and power, she said. He smiled gently. I chose something better, she looked at him. What is that? Home, he replied. The wind moved quietly around them. What began as a marriage no one believed in had become a partnership that changed an entire world. And for the first time in many years, Cale felt truly free, not because he escaped his past, but because he finally faced it with someone who believed in him. The mountain no longer hid secrets, it held a future.